listening to Unravel with Natalie Denise.
What's up, muchachos y muchachas? Oh my gosh, guys, this lighting is a game changer. So I was you know what I was using before? I was using reading lights from Amazon, like old reading lights, literally those reading lights that you can like change the shape. And I feel like maybe they were a little bit too strong. Even my eyes were kind of like my corneas were burning and all that. And then I was like, those gave up on me, of course, because they're probably poorly made. And I was using some other bulbs that I had for my makeup desk, what I used for my makeup lighting. And then, but that was also really strong. I felt like the contrast was like bright, super bright. Like, lo and behold, God answers a prayer, and I got gifted some studio lights just today. And one, I'm waiting on a bulb, so I'll put another one so it won't be like shadowy on this side or whatever, or on this side, whatever, this side, whatever. So the lighting will get a little bit better. But my gosh, like, I bought this camera and I was like, okay, I need more quality for my streams because I'm going to go all in. I'm going to do this. And I think the lighting was just too much for the camera to, I guess, grasp. But this shows a big difference. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually look HD. I look like you guys are like sitting right here in front of me, which is kind of cool. So anyway, I just had to express my excitement about that today. Lighting is key, says Keem. What's up, Keem? Thank you so much for always joining in. Thank you for being my faithful mod. Message you soon. Might be coming on to something. Why did that happen? The screen just blacked out again. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to even put attention to it. But yes, Keem, my mod, thank you so much for being here. All right, anywho, what are we getting started with? I already told you guys my dream yesterday. We'll see. Some weird stuff going on today. I really want to focus on, whoo, boy, what's her name? Kataji Brown. She was at a hearing today for her swearing as a Supreme Court justice. And, her answers, first of all, prayers up for Clarence Thomas, who contracted an infection, and unfortunately he is healing at the hospital. So prayers for protection over him, prayers for his healing, because we need our Justice Thomas. We need our Justice Thomas, because the hot mess that I witnessed today is incredible. Incredible that this is the stuff that we're living through. Okay. So I kind of course, as tradition will have it, I want to start out with scripture. And we'll begin with this before we even get into our, you know what though? You know what? Actually, your neck. I'm actually gonna start out with this scripture right here. I'm just gonna start with this scripture right here. All right. We're gonna actually start off with this one because I think it's I think it's pretty relevant. So I'm able to share my screen, but I have to share it on my Chrome screen, which I usually don't. I like to use my Brave screen because it cuts out all the ads and all the trackers and my DuckDuckGo on it. But this will have to do because I like my visuals. But let's actually, I was going to do Proverbs 17:3, which is what is tattooed on my hand. But this just hit me right now. I'm like, you know what though? This is important to cover, why we should go into why God does not like people derailing children into these doctrines. So we're going to cover Matthew 18:6, where it says, if anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. That's in that is in Matthew 6:18:6. Okay. So if anyone I don't know. I was just waiting. I was just waiting. Mm-mm. Something doesn't want me streaming today, but I'm going to stream anyway. I'm going to stream anyway. So the first part, let's break it down. It says here, some can go wayward by the influence of others. There is no reason to think that each individual will not be held accountable for his own sin, but it is also clear that those with influence bear a greater responsibility. Absolutely. So in the first part of that verse of Matthew 18:6, it says, if anyone, if you're an adult and you have better sense than these little kids to be you know, disseminating these doctrines and these ideas that they need to be some way or the other, or they need to accept something, this is what they're talking about. You bear greater responsibility because number one, you're an adult, and I'm speaking in terms of secular now because if you're an adult and you have these a better understanding, your brain is fully developed, you know what you're causing these kids to go into, but you still disseminate this doctrine over them, you have that responsibility because you decided to do that. And then in a second part breakdown, one of these little ones who believe in me. So it says it's not certain whether Jesus is speaking of believing children or adults who believe like children, but either way, the meaning is mostly the same. If the latter is meant, it certainly doesn't negate the former. So this this first these the way I see it, the way that it literally in literal sense it says these little ones, I would have that way I read it. That's the way my spirit interprets. I don't know why my feed is doing this today. No idea. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. For the most part, we don't have a problem. But today, because we're going over this specific scripture, all of a sudden it wants to freeze up. But it's okay because I'm gonna keep going. If it causes one of these little ones who believe in me, and again, I think that Jesus is talking about children, little ones, because there is faith like children. Come to me like little children. It says that in His Word, and that's like childlike faith. He's like saying, like, just come to me with blind faith. Just believe in me. Just come to me, right? But here it says very specifically little ones. So the way I discern this, it looks to be that He's talking about children. Stumbling could refer to falling away from God or sinning or doubting. The only stumbling block that we should put before anyone is the gospel itself. All other stumbling blocks cleared away whenever possible when we are that stumbling block. So, getting away from, the number one, the number one aim for that in biblical and godly ways, right? That's like easy. If you're causing them to stumble, you're causing them to go into this other into behavior that is not godly. Then again, you are on children it away from God's law. It continues. It continues. I don't know why. I don't know. Okay. Guys, you know what? Like, I don't know what's happening. Sorry for those of you that are listening on audio podcasts. My feed keeps going in and out. There's no explanation as to why this is happening. It shouldn't be happening. It is. It's never happened like this before, where it just completely cut me out the stream. Right now, it just blacked out. It cut me out the stream. I'm sorry, something went wrong. That's crazy. Okay, so it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Christ uses the strongest language to convey the seriousness of the matter. Being drowned in the depth of the sea would be preferable to the fires of hell. It would be proper to pray that as uh, so, with that being said, I know I keep freezing out and coming back in. I apologize. This is StreamYard. I don't know why it's doing it today. It doesn't usually have this big of a problem. Sometimes it'll black out once and then it's fine. It'll come back. But this is blacking me out quite a bit today. So let me go ahead and get to it. So we covered scripture. Today, Kataji Brown, she argued, well, not argued, but she responded to some questions that Senator Hawley had. And Senator Hawley, we went through this yesterday. So if you're curious about the subject matter, go to yesterday's stream or yesterday's podcast. We talked about, or we talked through his entire feed of, it was a thread that he did on Twitter, just addressing some concerns over Kataji and her history of being lenient towards pedophiles and their sentencing. Now, this one is an interesting. This one is an interesting piece here because he's asking her about the light sentencing once again, and her response has something to do with the. Here, let me put it right here. Maybe this is why it's happening. Her response has something to do with the content pieces of CSM. CSM stands for child sexual material. And she's talking about, oh, well, there's a difference, but before pedophiles would get, this CSM by mail, they would mail it in, but now they can get it online. So it's a completely different context. And no, it's not. Just hear what she has to say here.
The guideline was based originally on a statutory scheme and on directives, specific directives by Congress at a time in which more serious child pornography offenders were identified based on the volume, based on the number of photographs that they received in the mail. And that made total sense before, when we didn't have the internet, when we didn't have distribution. But the way that the guideline is now structured, based on that set of circumstances, is leading to extreme disparities in the system because it's so easy for people to get volumes of this kind of material now by computers. So it's not doing the work of differentiating who is a more serious offender in the way that it used to. So the commission has taken that into account, and perhaps even more importantly, courts are adjusting their sentences in order to account for the changed circumstances. But it says nothing about the court's view of the seriousness of this offense.
Now, I would think that Judge Kataji just has like a good sense of discretion, right? I feel like she's arguing in a form of semantics in a way, where what she's trying to say is the court structure or the way that we do this is that, there's a disparity caused because before these pedophiles could get less CSM, and now they're able to have access to more CSM. So before it was worse, and I don't understand that part. I don't understand. Well, I don't understand every part of her argument, but that doesn't make sense to me. That because it's more accessible online, that this is okay for pedophiles. Like then they deserve lighter sentencing. I'm going to just kind of play through it once again, but I'm going to stop it in compartments so that way I can comment on what she's saying.
The guideline was based originally on a statutory scheme and on directives by Congress at a time in which more serious child pornography offenders were identified based on the volume, based on the number of photographs that they received in the mail. And that made total sense before, when we didn't have the internet, when we did.
So I want to ask, how does that make total sense before? How does that make total sense before? Whether a pedophile gets a content, CSM content in the mail, okay? Someone is that any different? This is just a way of communication and a way of getting our message that's different. It's a communication shift that we have experienced in the latest 21st century. You know, that's what's different. It's not the fact that the content is different. The content is okay. Now, what she's arguing is that because now they can get more of it because it's online and there's more accessibility, it creates a disparity in the system, meaning that more and more people who are inclined to this sick content can get prosecuted more. That makes sense to me. They should be prosecuted more.
Didn't have distribution, but the way that the guideline is now structured on that set of circumstance, because it's so easy for people to get volumes of this kind of material now by computers. So it's not doing the work of differentiating who is a more serious offender.
No, they're all serious offenders. They're all serious offenders. It doesn't matter how much work that they put in to get the content. The fact of the matter is that they're getting the content. Does that make any sense? Am I sounding logical? Am I sounding logical here? It does not matter whether they use the instrument of the mail or the instrument of the internet. The fact of the matter is the common denominator is that sickos out there have an inclination for children, and they are receiving and scouting. They are seeking this type of content, and they are getting it which way or the other. Doesn't matter whether it's mail, whether it's through a telegram, whether it's through UPS, whatever, the internet, it doesn't matter. The content is the same. That is the common denominator of all these things. Now, what I will also argue is, nowadays, you guys hear it when we are talking about this on the daily track about, we see where people are being busted with hundreds of images or content pieces of children. That person is a sicker pedophile or not, it has nothing to do with it. It's the fact that they're even going out to get that in the first place.
And what mission has taken that into, and perhaps even more importantly, courts are adjusting their sentences in order to account for the changed circumstances. But it says nothing about the court's view of the seriousness of this offense.
So you're relying on the court's seriousness and not on the seriousness of your discretion as a judge to either sentence them as they should, keep them off the streets, and giving them lighter sentences. I mean, just listen to that. Listen to her commentary on that. So, moving on. Oh yeah, and by the way, Amanda Bynes, she was granted away from her conservatorship today. But okay, we're going to continue on with Kataji. So this is another clip from this questioning by Senator Hawley. Kataji didn't view. So in this, he is arguing that, hey, there's specific cases. And yesterday we went through some of these cases. There were so many that he listed. We didn't go through all of them. But he was trying to make his point like, look, it's one case after the other, after the other, after the other, where this judge is letting these sick pedophiles off really, really easy. In the case that he's citing in this clip, the offender was 18 years old and the victim was 8 years old. She sentenced this guy to only 3 months in jail. I need no more explanation. Why would you do that? Take a listen.
Who were not. One more thing on this same idea. You said you were viewing, this is you to the defendant, you were viewing sex acts between children who were not much younger than you. And this whole discussion is about why you're only giving him 3 months. Judge, he was 18. These kids are 8. I don't see in what sense they're peers. I've got a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 16-month-old at home. And I live in fear that they will be exposed to, let alone exploited in this kind of material. I don't understand you saying to him that they're peers and that therefore you were viewing sex acts between children who are not much younger than you, and that's somehow a reason to only give him 3 months. Help me understand this.
Senator, I don't have the record of that entire case.
One more thing on this same idea. You said you were viewing, this is you to the defendant.
So you guys heard that. All of a sudden, these people who stand a hearing, all of a sudden they get amnesia. It's incredible. It's incredible. Every single time these people stand in a hearing that actually have a lot of credible evidence against them, they cower out and they somehow catch amnesia. I don't have the court case in front of me. You don't need the court case in front of you. Reflect back and ask yourself if that was a great decision. No, 3 months? And about the subject matter, you're arguing that, because there wasn't there wasn't a big delta in the age gap. That's 10 years. That's a whole young adult doing this to an 8-year-old, who needs to be protected, an 8-year-old who can't fight back. And you're saying that because the age difference wasn't much? What the heck is your age gap? What's your range? Is it 10? Is it 20 years? Is it 15? Where then it would be counted? An 8-year-old kid, imagine. And this 18-year-old did, I'm sure, some atrocities, tainted this kid's childhood, but because she's trying to take a technical argument where, the court structures this or that. The court structures this or that. Because she is taking a technical argument. She's saying that, because there's not a big difference in age, so that's why I didn't do that. That's what the case is arguing. But in this thing, when she's talking to Senator Hawley, when she's replying back, she's saying that basically a cop-out. Number one, she has amnesia, and number two, she doesn't have the entire case in front of her. You don't need the entire case to comment on a bad decision. And this was a decision over and over and over and over again. This is wild, guys. Wild. And God bless Senator Hawley for bringing this up in the first place, doing the due diligence to do the type of digging he needs to do as a senator. There's a plethora of other things that they asked her, but this in particular was something that I needed to hone in on because, of course, a lot of you, you're already here for the daily traffic, and this is a subject matter that is important to you, as it should be. But this is also important for our future generations. Even those that are listening that don't have kids. I mean, listen to this. Listen how lax this is, as if she doesn't give a care in the world about this. Then I'm going to say it again. This is nothing to do with race. This is nothing to do with race. Like if there was a judge that had good character who was against the sexual exploitation of children, who ruled that way, I would be applauding this judge for being the first Black judge to be sworn in. But people are so emotionalized, and so their heartstrings are so tugged by the mainstream media on race, and we have fought about race, on all these things, all these narratives that they have created, that they are now painting over these major red flags with this woman ruling in favor of pedophiles. That now, it's an argument of the race card versus the virtue of being against the exploitation of children. How did we get here in America in 2022? None of us want to argue about that, but that's what the mainstream media is taking on to. That's what they're adhering to. And I said it yesterday, if this was a Latina, I would be calling her out the same exact way. Don't care. I don't care who these people are. If this was a Latina woman who did this, I would be calling her out the same exact way, because we need to go judge people based on the content of their character, okay? And the content of her character is very worrisome, especially for children. So with that, okay, we'll move on. We're going to go ahead and head into, well, I guess this is already considered the daily traffic, but we're going to go into more headlines with the daily traffic. This one is coming from San Antonio Express News. Very disturbing story. Very disturbing story. A Texas man who agreed to torture a sexploitation victim is sentenced. A Texas man was sentenced on Thursday, 10 years in prison for offering to torture a sex trafficking victim for money, the Department of Justice said. Billy Joe Sanford, 39, of Eustis, pled guilty in November of 2021 to attempting kidnapping. In October of 2020, Sanford replied to an online ad posted by an undercover Department of Homeland Security agent seeking to help with a sex trafficking victim who needs breaking, according to the ad, according to a federal complaint. Sanford said that he could help make her a proper slave. Sorry about the ads, guys. I'm not in my usual browser, so I got to deal with this. So he can make her a proper slave. The undercover agent, posing as a head of a human trafficking ring, told Sanford he planned to make a fortune pimping out the victim, but was concerned about her refusal to engage in commercial sex and her repeated attempts to escape. Get this. Sanford requested $5,000 a week and a space to torture the victim that were provided complete privacy far from neighbors. Sanford communicated with the agent for about a month regarding the logistics of his services. He bragged that he had broken trafficking victims before and said that his methods included flogging, caging, shock therapy, blaring heavy metal music, whips, paddles lined with nails, and blackout contacts. So I really hope that they are extrapolating and extracting more information out from this man. Who the hell did he torture? Because he was very specific about his methods. This is part of the breaking process, y'all. I don't think I've really talked about the breaking process so much because it's never mentioned in stories, or at least this I know is a very painful subject matter for a trafficking victim to talk about. So, this is something not easily extracted from a victim as far as this type of detail. But the breaking process in trafficking happens after the fact that they are already ensnared. So the grooming process happens. They were probably Romeo pimped. They are now in the trap. They are now threatened for their life or their family's lives. So now they're in survival mode. Now the breaking process happens when it's a lot of what's called, it's part of a guerrilla pimping also, but the breaking process is there to ensure that there is a adhered trauma bond to the victim. And so the breaking process is as it sounds. It could be whipping, it could be caging. They are basically scaring, fear-based coercing the victim into submission. And so they will do this so that way the victim will adhere to their orders and fear everything that they threatened. So that way they'll come back and do the same thing. So this guy says that he's done it before, and it sounds like he did. These are his methods. Again, I'm going to repeat it, that his methods included flogging, caging, shock therapy, blaring heavy metal music, whips, paddles lined with nails, and blackout contacts. And I'm not sure what blackout contacts means. If that means that he assaulted the victim until they blacked out. Sanford also said that he would rape the victim as part of the torture, the criminal complaint said. He also told the agent that he would cause excruciating pain, but would not leave any scars that would affect the victim's later sale, and that he knew where the sensitive parts of the body are from his training as a certified nursing assistant, the DOJ said. Sick. You want someone that when it's done, if she gets just a smidgen out of line, you can say, hey, I'm going to call him back. He told the agent, you want her to believe that whenever she leaves the job, if she does not report back to you, she's going back to Bill. Just make sure they understand they never want to experience this again, he said to the agent. On November 5th, Sanford was arrested after he set up a meeting with an undercover agent. The agent brought another undercover agent who posed as a victim to the warehouse where Sanford was supposed to torture her. Sanford brought restraints, flogs, spurs, and other equipment. So he showed up with all this. When questioned by the police, Sanford said that he had been in the kink lifestyle for years and that he just wanted to break the victim to help her enjoy life. That's his explanation. To help her enjoy life, the criminal complaint said. He said he needed the money because he had financial problems. Sanford was originally arrested on suspicion of attempting to aid and abet sex trafficking and later pled guilty to attempting kidnapping. Tragically, all human trafficking victims endure trauma, said U.S. Attorney Chad Meacham, but the cruelty this defendant was prepared to inflict is almost unthinkable. This is the guy. Take a good look. So again, this is a breaking process. A lot of people don't hear about that, but this is a very specific story on that process within trafficking. All right. This is a warning out. So Border Patrol is putting a warning out for children going back to school. They are worried that cartels are trying to entice children to work for them in human smuggling, possibly even human trafficking. It says here, Border Patrol has enhanced its school outreach program in the past year to warn teens about being a human smuggler for cartels advertising on social media, which is where, as you guys know, if you don't know, cartel last year especially, in the summertime, they were caught using Facebook to promote their smuggling services, and there was no blowback to them. Many people were getting their accounts nuked for saying the wrong thing, believing the wrong thing, but they allowed human traffickers smugglers on Facebook to advertise their services. So social media is a big platform for them to advertise this on. They said they don't tell them the penalty and the consequences involved. Border Patrol agent Gregory Aldea told the Daily Caller News Foundation, they just make it sound so appealing, and every situation is different. They might have a need for the fast cash for whatever reason. Aldea said teens as young as 13 are often targeted on social media to take part in smuggling operations. So that is the warning out there. I think that's pretty oops, that is pretty straightforward enough. Just be aware of social media. Of course, you already should be monitoring your children on here, your teens, but they are targeting these teens very specifically. They know how to. So just know that on top of all the other dangers that are out there, these smugglers, these cartel members are out there also looking for helpers. All right. Next story coming from WFLA. A Tampa pastor foster parent accused of sexual battery. This is, again, from Tampa, Florida. A Tampa pastor who is also a foster parent has been accused of sexual molestation of multiple children. Tampa police say 81-year-old Jesus Manuel Castellano Mojica was arrested this week after an investigation that started last month. According to police, the Department of Children and Families received a report on February 14th about a possible 7-year-old victim of sexual abuse. The Tampa Police Department's Special Victims Unit was assigned to investigate. After multiple interviews, detectives say that they determined they were 3 victims total. According to police, the victims were 2 young girls and a woman. The woman told police about incidents that happened with the suspect. She was 11, according to detectives. Police say Castellano Mojica was a foster parent and also a pastor at Grace Church of the Nazarene in Tampa. He was arrested and charged with lewd and lascivious molestation as well as sexual battery. The investigation is ongoing. Once again, another pastor. We actually covered a pastor in New Hampshire last week. Again, just to reiterate that these people, these perpetrators, these abusers, they come from all walks of life. They are all races. They are all positions, whether it is the most noble or if it's the most lowly. Every single person comes from a different walk of life when it comes to these perpetrators. All right. This next story is, it's pretty dark. A Guatemalan national sentenced to 27 years in federal prison for sex trafficking a minor and related charges. Judge Ellen Hollander today sentenced Feliciano Jesus Diaz Martinez, aka Alex, he's 43, from Owings Mills, Maryland, to 27 years in prison, followed by 10 years of supervised release for sex trafficking of a child, enticement of a minor to engage in prostitution, sex trafficking by force, fraud, and coercion, and distribution of controlled substances. Diaz Martinez, who has been in custody since the indictment of July 25th, 2019, was convicted of those charges by federal jury on November 18, 2021. According to the evidence presented by his 9-day trial from at least 2016 through May of 2019, Diaz Martinez, a Guatemalan national in the United States, illegally caused at least 8 individuals, including a minor, to engage in commercial sex acts for his own financial benefit by means of force, fraud, and coercion. And I'm sorry, I forgot to mention the source. This is from justice.gov. Trial testimony confirmed that Diaz Martinez knew that the victim was 16 years old when he first caused her to engage in commercial sex acts. Victim 1 continued to work for Diaz Martinez until she was approximately 18 years old. The evidence proved that nearly all the victims that Diaz Martinez caused to engage in commercial sex acts suffered from serious substance abuse disorders, including addictions to heroin, crack cocaine, and Xanax. Diaz Martinez took half or all the money earned by the victims working for him and sold some of the victims narcotics, often at prices significantly higher than he paid to purchase the drugs. As detailed in the trial testimony, Diaz-Martinez maintained a network of friends and associates who paid to engage in commercial sex acts with the victims Diaz-Martinez advertised and made available to them. He sent his customers pictures of the victims available for commercial sex and set the prices that customers would pay to engage in the acts with the victim he controlled. He then transported or caused to be transported victims to his customers' homes or hotel rooms he rented to engage in commercial sex acts. The evidence showed that Diaz-Martinez also invited customers to engage in commercial sex acts with victims in his apartment in a storage unit that he rented. This man is just, I mean, this is pure illustration of how commoditized humans are to, traffickers and pimps. They're just viewed as a product. Just do it anywhere in a warehouse. At what was it? He rented. What did it say? He rented a unit, a storage unit, for them to do it in. Witnesses testified that Diaz-Martinez maintained several different accounts and aliases on social media platforms, which he used to recruit and communicate with victims in order to entice them to work for him and engage in commercial sex acts, including many users he had never met. The jury found that Diaz-Martinez sometimes offered the users he communicated with heroin, crack cocaine, referred to as boy and girl, in exchange for engaging in commercial sex acts with his customers. Diaz-Martinez also directed the victims working for him to recruit their friends, many of whom they were also addicted to narcotics, to engage in commercial sex for his financial benefit. Several victims testified that he frequently demanded that they engage in sex acts with him free of charge, and that he retaliated against the victims if he was not personally satisfied with the sexual encounter. He also retaliated against victims who violated his rules, failed to earn sufficient money from commercial sex, or otherwise displeased him in a number of ways, including abandoning them at customers' homes, on roadsides without their belongings or transportation, and withholding drugs from the victims who he knew would be addicted. I told you this one was a doozy, but that is a Guatemalan national. Now, also, I read these stories, especially the ones that are from justice.gov, the ones that are convicted, that are other country nationals in our country. They come here illegally, and these are the things that they cause. Okay, like this has been happening. Okay, this was first investigated, or I believe he was arrested. He's been detained since 2019. So things like this have been happening, but this should illustrate to you on ratio of how porous our border is currently, how this is really affecting us today, because this is happening in a multiplicative fashion, where a lot of these cases are happening more often than we see. So, muchachos y muchachas, that was the stream. Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below after this is published. Those of you that are listening on audio podcast, I appreciate your support. Thank you so much for listening to me. Hey, despite our differences, I think that we can agree on certain focus matters of things that concern children and the safety of children. So I appreciate even those that have different opinions and different views, that you just hear me out, and that we can have just a bridge, a common denominator, that a belief that children should be protected and offenders need to be put in jail, straight up, 100%. That's the argument. So I hope that you guys learned a few things from this podcast. If you are listening on audio, be sure to give me 5 stars. Thank you again for all of your love and all of your support. I will see you guys again tomorrow in another episode of Nightly with Natalie, the Daily Traffic, on Unravel with Natalie Denise. I will catch you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye. Thank you. I love you guys.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Unravel with Natalie Denise. Please give this podcast 5 stars.